All right. So this backend service, as I mentioned long time ago, that this part of the whole thing is encapsulating the backend service. So all the way up to this whole thing, this whole module kind of a structure that we have is encapsulating the all the backend services that we are doing. So for now, I would say that don't worry about all these things, whatever is going on here, because you'll have to understand the RESTful APIs and how you make a call through using this GAPI client and things like that. So which is another learning curve by itself. So for now, again, this is basically encapsulating the AJAX call. So you all understood what's an AJAX call, right? So this whole functionality that you're seeing using this GAPI client is actually encapsulating that AJAX call. So all we have to do is call these Google APIs, and that will take care. This is a library again, so that library will take care of really making the backend call through AJAX. That's pretty much the bottom line of this whole module. Okay, so for now, don't worry about that. All you have to, I mean, bottom line, this is still JavaScript only. As you can see, these are simple functions. That function is calling this backend service, and it's executing and it's getting a result back. So your focus should be, okay, if you get the result back, what are you going to do with that result? And also, what is that you're planning to send to this backend service? So there is some input that you're going to give to these functions, and that function will sometimes give you an output back. All of them are not giving you an output. Like, for example, this one, where submit solution is giving an output. We are putting the result here in a console, but it is not wired to a callback function like the way this one is wired. This one is wired to a callback function, whereas this one is directly going to the console. That's pretty much it. So in this case, there is nothing to expect back, even though there may be something coming, but since I have not given a hook for the callback function right now, there is nothing that you can do after you use this function. Means, in other words, you gave some input and you're not worried about what output it's going to give you. But in this particular case, you're giving an input and you're going to get an output if you provide a callback function. So you write a function, you write any kind of a function which is able to process this result. So that's all you need to do. Write any kind of a function which can process this result, and when you call this particular call, I mean, all these are exposed through this object here, right? So this object is exposing all of those functions. So when you call this add problem set or whatever, ensure that if you need to process the result, send in a callback function which is able to process that result. That's pretty much it. That's all you have to be worried about. So you're giving a bunch of inputs, and the backend will sometimes give you some output, and if it gives an output, then you have to have a function which will process that output and do something with it. If it is not giving you anything, then you're not obligated to give any callback function, and it simply processes your input and it does something in the backend, and there ends the matter. So that is the two simple philosophies that we are adopting in this whole module. Some functions are returning something, some functions are not returning anything. With that as the black box, I mean, that is a black box for you guys, and let it be. That's okay, because there are so many other things that I haven't taught so far. So that particular whole part is going to be just a black box. And what you're going to be focused on is writing a function like this, which will get the result. And that result you have to process by doing whatever you're doing. Like the Mini landed up writing this because she's processing this result that came from the backend, and then she is populating the DOM with new elements and stuff like that. So that is all that you have to focus on. You have to just focus on writing a function like this. If it is giving result back, then you're going to focus on writing a function like this, processing that result, manipulating the DOM based on the results that you're getting. That's all you need to do as far as callback functions are concerned. Now, once you write this callback function, give whatever name you want. I mean, this name you can give whatever you want. So once you give that name, you send that name in as we I mean, this part of it we have done that in the function, how to call a function, how to send the function. Here at this point you're not invoking the function, but you're just sending the reference to that function definition, so that that function will be called in inside of this one. So this callback is nothing but what comes from that function invocation, and that function is the one which eventually gets called here with the result that it got from the backend. And so once that happens, this function gets invoked, because that is what you're seeing here. So backend get problem, these are the function parameters, and this is the function definition, and this definition is right here, which knows how to process this result. So this backend service get problems is going to it is basically referencing this get problems, this one, this get problems, which is wired up to this get problems function inside. So if you see that that particular one, it's actually taking this callback. So this callback is nothing but this display problems, because that is what is being sent here in this invocation. So again, you can keep changing this. I mean, one set of operations could be sending the display problems function. For some other functionality, you may be adding another function and you may be sending that instead. It's up to you. For now, these hooks, you have full control over what is that you want to develop, or what is that you want to do using this result set. You're going to create some function which will know how to process this result. So that function definition you're going to send into this backend service get problems function, and then once it gets back the results, then what happens is, once the result comes through, once you run the execute, it goes to the backend, it processes that, gets the result. It takes a while for it to do all that stuff, because this is a remote backend. So it will send the values there, the backend will do something and send back the results. That result will come in here. This is an again arrow function. This is called as an anonymous arrow function. So that result is passed on to this anonymous arrow function, and inside, what are we doing? This callback, which is coming as the argument, is the one which is called with this result. And this callback is nothing but this display problems, because that is what we sent in here. And that's pretty much it. There is and in your case, in your specific case, what you guys are doing, what you have to do is, you're just going to add problem. So if you look into the add problem method, what does that do? So add problem is wired to add problem. And so if you go up here, the add problem is simply taking the complexity, the language, the name, and then the problem set. Oh, this is add problem set, sorry. So this add problem is just taking the problem, the language, and the complexity, and then it is sending to the backend. So it will add this problem to the backend, and once it is processed in the backend, it gets the results back, and that result, it's just logging that result in the console, and that's it. I mean, actually it doesn't send back anything. So that's why there is no callback function for this add problem. That's why I was telling you guys yesterday that for add problem there is no callback, and all you have to do is simply call this backend service dot add problem and send in the required parameters, and you're all set. So this is all you need to do. So you have to just call this backend service dot add problem and send in all these three variables that you are going to get from the form, and then you're all set with this. This is all you need to do. So if I go back to this is your stuff, right? Is this your stuff? Did you guys make any modifications to this?
Uh, yeah, but this morning we had just we got that validate form working. We had misspelled the problem thing, so we didn't connect with the alert properly.
Okay.
So now it's working. Now if you do that, that's the change we made.
Okay. So if you check in, if you push your changes to the GitLab, then I can get it
It,
from there.
she did. Um, uh, Michelle did that this morning.
All right, so let me grab it then. So I think I made some changes here. So let me revert my changes so that nothing is. I don't think so. My changes are important at this point. So I'm gonna revert it, and then I'm gonna get your changes.
Are you done recording, Jeshri, or shall I mute?
Uh, I'm still recording actually.
Okay,
So
sorry.
yeah, I will stop it. I guess that's pretty much it. I think, right? Um, yeah, I'll stop it.